Hi, and welcome back to the Foreground Podcast. My name is Moaga, and we are so delighted for you to join us on season one. We're wrapping up this time of the year. We've had some incredible guests, and we're so looking forward to today's guest. But before we do, we want to do a massive shout out to our sponsors or those who have powered us this year. Lumbr Café. I was going to show a logo, but there's no logo on this. Maybe it's some AI. You can slide that one over. Oh, where is it? Here. It's all right. If you're listening to this, you probably have no idea. There you go. And the team at Spine Street down at Sumner, please check them out. I know that we've had listeners who have just stopped by and surprised how amazing the coffee is. I'm not surprised because I get to have it on a regular basis. So shout out to the baristas and the team here at Lumbr Cafe. Come down at Spine Street in Sumner. But also shout out to Alani Networks Media, our crew who have been filming. They produce this for us. They make us look good on social media. So thank you so much. And so we really do appreciate your support so far. As you would notice, normally my main man, Peter, is not here this morning or today, but he's really sad not to be here because the guest that we have today is going to be incredible. One thing we do before we jump into the podcast is that a lot have asked and go, what is the Foreground Podcast all about? Well, we work around the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are we talk anything around culture, corporate, community, and connection. And so a lot of the time we love to find guests where we speak about their roles, we speak about their lives, we speak about leadership, anything that can help add value to you and your capacity. So without further ado, I'm excited this morning because I want to go straight into this. Our guest this morning, I got a list from Rochelle. She's like, read this. I'm like, oh, that's a list. But my guest this morning, I'm going to start off by saying this, the intro. My guest this morning is my friend. He's my brother. We've had a deep and long relationship as long as we've known each other for such a long time. You will know him in other capacities. You will know him as an author. You will know him as a speaker online, TED Talks, and all around the world, a presenter, and he's a social advocate. And I think the credits can go on because him and his wife are just a powerhouse. But if you know who he is, like you will appreciate that he's not impressed by titles. He's just him being him, sharing the story of his life and his mission. So I just want to introduce Mataio Brown. Yo, let's go.
Sapples.
Man, how are you?
Good, thank you, brother.
Oh, man.
Thank you for having me here. Always nice to be in your presence. Day one.
A bit of a background to that. Like, do you remember our day one? Because people often ask me, it's like, how do you know Matt? And I'm like, oh, we're at day one. Like, yeah, everyone says that. No, actual. So I want to hear from you. Evidence, what he says, not what I say.
Oh, man. I mean, we're going back over
2012.
2012. Yeah. So that's 13 years ago, was it? 13 years.
Yeah.
Cutting in my shed in Christchurch, on the east side of Christchurch, a place called Alani, where I started my barbering career. Yeah. And you walked in, one of the many brown faces that I cut. And I think it's just your humility in approaching my chair. But after every haircut, you always prayed for me. Yeah. And I'll always be grateful for those prayers because those prayers got me through many hard moments, listening to men's stories in the hood, in the east side of Christchurch, where this movement just organically grew from that barber chair, that barber shed.
Yeah,
so,
that barber shed. It was crazy. I tell people, because they said, a friend of mine, John Sraella, who was on What Now? He was a presenter, Cook Islander bro. And I was like, give me a barber. I don't know Christchurch. He goes, oh, yeah, there's this guy. Hit him up. And I was like, where's the address? And again, I don't know where Aranui is. I'm driving through. I'm like, kind of looks like Logan, but a bit more rougher. And then I'm trying to look for a shop. There was no shop. There was a driveway around the back. And all I hear was voices. And I remember the first person whose side profile I saw as I walked towards the shed, it was Josh. So he's there and he's got his beard, he has beard. And I think I saw Sarah then, and then I came around and I was like, oh, is this where and then they pointed me to you. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And that's how it began. Like literally that's how it began. And I think for me, it was like one of the biggest things that I noticed straight away was also your warmth You know what I mean? And that's not something that has come easy. But I've always appreciated your warmth and you receiving me. And I think we exchange music, CDs and stuff like that. CDs.
Making us sound old.
Oh, man. But I think that just blossomed and our relationship blossomed from there, from seeing the different versions of barbershop from that to that place in the city. It was that just the one chair. And then from then to finally opening a shop. And it's been an incredible journey. So I just want to acknowledge that sometimes I think to myself as well, when I get so far ahead in the work that I do, I often forget to pause and go, oh, I've journeyed this long with someone, like for yourself, 13 years. That's crazy. A lot has happened in 13 years.
Yeah, a lot's happened. We've got children now,
We
right?
got children, 100%.
Yeah.
What has been, I guess, I'm going to be weaving in and out of our conversation. I want to be intentional as well. Like, what has been what's one thing some things that you've learned from that moment in Christchurch in the shed to what you do now? Like, what has been some of the learnings for you personally?
Oh.
And it could be a list. Like, it could be a few things. Could be a lot. Like, I don't want you to try and dig back so deep that you forget. But what has been some pretty big learning moments for you?
There's been so many learnings. But service has always been at the heart of everything that I do. Serving my community, serving our people. Yeah. But the biggest learning is, I suppose in the space of conversation, of talanoa, of talking to men, I've learned that shame, pain, childhood trauma does not discriminate. Yeah. I've had the honour of cutting men's hair from our Pasifika brothers to our Palangi brothers to many different cultures. And in that spectrum of, trauma and pain, it doesn't discriminate. So many of our men carry so many burdens that they don't really talk about or often share. Yeah. And I think in that barber space, cutting men's hair, having that privilege, it's all of us.
Crazy. Yeah.
Connect on that.
Yeah. And service is huge, right? We, as Samoans, Pacifica people, really, I wouldn't say pride ourselves, but it's almost the foundation of who we are. Ole ala I lupula le tautua, meaning the pathway to leadership is through service. Yeah. How has your service changed over the years from like cutting hair to doing what you do now? Like, has there been a common thread of the kind of way that you've been serving?
For me, it's just listening. Like, I have the honor to go into so many different communities around the world now, globally. And obviously I work in family violence prevention and men's mental health and well-being. And so I always take our culture with me. My wha Samoa is not the best, especially growing up in Christchurch. I was born in South Auckland, but raised in Christchurch. And, the further south you go in Aotearoa, the more light skin it is, the more whiter it is. And so I think growing up in Christchurch in the 80s and 90s, racism was massive. Yeah. Skinheads, if you don't know what skinheads were, it was, real white, racist collective who kind of just ran rampage in Christchurch in the 90s. And so growing around that environment was tough. Racism in Christchurch is different to racism in South Auckland. Yeah. There weren't many people that look like us, talk like us, and I remember going to school in the 90s. I couldn't speak English. Samoan was my first language. Yeah. But I remember getting a note from the teacher. I don't know what the note read, but I remember giving it to Mum, and then Mum saying, no more Samoan for you. You learn how to speak English properly. And so it was just hard, because I suppose when you're growing up in the whole Whale Samoa, Samoan house, where you go to church on Sunday, you spoke the language, but then the other 6 days of the week you had to learn English. And I kind of what would I say? What's the word? I'm lost for words at the moment. I kind of fused violence and my culture together. Gotcha. Because to me it was like, well, Sunday was, wha Samoa, you went to church, wore your best clothes and talk about God, but then the rest of the days of the week was violence, dysregulation. My dad was beating up my mum, and so if this was my culture, I want nothing to do with it. you know, and so I kind of lost that whole touch to my culture. Obviously now growing up, becoming a dad, there's so many beautiful things in my culture that I've learned now. But as a young kid growing up in Christchurch, it was like, nah, well, nothing of it.
Yeah, one of the things that I think about when you say that is it's sometimes. So, for those who don't know, my background is in church ministry. I'm a church minister. So when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking to myself, there's often a conflict between culture and religion or spirituality. Like 100%. There's not, and I don't like how do you speak into that? Because, you know, when we cross paths, I'm talking to you about church and this is how it is for me, but your experience was polar different. So like, speak to me about what has it been reconciliation in that, the two concepts are like, or are they so polar apart that you just don't want anything to do with it? Do you love, like, how does it, I'm just trying to process for myself because it's two different worlds, right? Like sometimes I think culture compounds so much on spirituality, but I think the other way around, but sometimes it's just opposites. And how do you reconcile? Yeah, it's not that like you don't dislike church people, but it's like the community, what it should have been, wasn't.
Yep. It's been a journey. You know, I'm still on that journey of reconciling culture and my faith.
Yep.
But to me, it's come down to my own personal relationship with Atua, with God. And I just try to take the good things of what my faith has given me and the good things of my culture, and I try and apply that to my own home life for my family, my kids, of what being a good dad is.
Yeah.
You know, these toxic things on both sides. People have used and weaponized faith, religion for their own greed. I leave that, you know, you keep that, I'll take what's good. And so the beautiful things I've learned in my culture of serving my family, serving, what does that look like to be a Samoan man in this day and age, in serving my family, my community. And to me, it's just alo alo, having respect for my elders and those who came before me, taking what's good and then, you know, giving my children and my community what's the best parts of that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Matt's been on minimal sleep.
That's been a hard, I've been on minimal sleep. But it's a hard one, trying to navigate those waters.
Yeah. I think I'm always one that I've never fit in a box when it comes to being a church minister. And
you haven't.
I would say an anomaly, to say the least. And I think that but you also fit in that category as well. Like, you're an anomaly. You're not just a barber. You have these other interests and other passions, which are like the work that you do now. Was there a point where you're like, I think I'm allowed, I have permission to do these other, express myself in other ways, like barbering? Many people don't know, you're in a hip hop group. This is how OG we are. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I think for me, if you're a church minister now, it's like, that's all you are. Like, that's it. There's no other higher calling and whatnot. So just stick to the one lane. And maybe what has been your experience? When did you feel that you could do other things other than just become because you were renowned as like the barber, like, you know, obviously it's stories like it blew up on social media, you're carving out Mona Lisas and, you know, the Last Supper and Tupac on people's heads, and then that blew up. But when did you know you're like, actually, there's more to me than just this one thing?
I think it was when I was speaking, obviously in a hip hop group. I met my wife. She worked for a non-for-profit organization fighting human trafficking and poverty around the world. And so she toured my band around the country. And it was when I started sharing my story in these different spaces, youth groups and churches. And I hadn't really seen many brown men talk about, you know, pornography addiction, family violence, sexual abuse on the pulpit.
Yeah.
It was a topic that was really, people didn't know how to talk
Taboo.
about it. Very taboo, swept under the rug, you know. And as a kid who was trying to navigate my Samoa and faith in church, I was like, man, like these things that I'm personally struggling with, how come my elders and the people that are role models are not talking about these things, you know? And it was like you had to navigate these troubled waters by yourself. And so when I took to the stage through music, obviously through the vehicle of hip hop, but then telling my story on these stages, the amount of young people, especially our people, Samoan kids and men, coming up to me crying like, we've never seen a brown man talk about family violence the way you're talking about it. Not in a shame way, but with compassion, you know, having compassion for your dad and your mum. Like, we don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, that's when I learned, there is something here. Like, how come we're not talking about it?
Yeah.
And I've just always I've stuck to my guns on that, you know, told my story, whether through the barber chair, through music.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, communicating on stage, on big stages.
Yeah.
We just don't know how to talk about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. How have you found telling your story? From when you first started to tell it to now, like, and I guess what I'm really trying to ask is, like, has that same drive still there? Or is it like, you know, sometimes we can talk something repetitive for such a long time. I know what to say. I know the story. Like, how do you still hold its sacredness?
Because it's real. Because I've lived it. Yep. I still remember mum's screams. I still remember mum's tears. I still remember every police that's come to our house and, you know, mishandled my dad or handled him properly, you know. It's very real. And so I know every time I pick up my phone and read another news headline, you know, it's still very real for a lot of our kids who still to this day suffer silently behind closed doors because adults don't know how to talk about it. Adults don't know how to regulate themselves. Adults are not willing to go and do the hard work in therapy or talking to someone, you know. Our children have to suffer. And so when I keep that in my head, it's always fresh, you know. Yeah. All the statistics are fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, currently right now back home in New Zealand, we just lost 3 beautiful children at the hands of a dad, you know. He lit their kids on fire in the home, took his own life, you know, all at the expense because his wife, ex-partner, was leaving him, you know. And so when you're reading these statistics and you're reading these news headlines, it's like, I have to stay fresh. I have to stay humane. Yeah. You know, it keeps me human. Yeah. It's tiring though, you know, having to retell your story. Yeah. But I always tell myself, this will help. This may help another child like me, you know, who's still in the cycle of abuse.
100%. What's been your self-care? Like, what do you do for you? To top it up, because again, I know you're the most giving dude.
Thank you.
You know, and if Sarah was here, she'd be like, okay, you need to stop telling people you're going to do this for them. Yeah. Because I know, because it is the work you do, but and it's a life calling. Yeah. There's a difference between a career and a calling. Like what we prayed about in Christchurch on a barber chair is like, may the calling be something beyond our wildest dreams. And sometimes you're like, oh, that's enough now.
No, thank you. So, I love traveling. Yeah. You know, I often talk to my brothers like, man, we were the kids watching all the news ads, you know, seeing all these foods, like, because obviously all we ate at home was sapasui and galo and, you know, all the island food. And so seeing roast chicken and all these things on TV, it's like, man, one day I'm going to eat that food. So, I mean, that's what these ads and hip hop gave me. It was a different window to life, right? And so now I'm living this life now where I get to travel and tell my story, but travel with my family and my kids, like that fills my cup. You know, that gives me life. Obviously in this work, I have amazing supervisors that I have at you know, which again is a privilege, and I recognize that. I can just ring, you know, at the press of a button if I need to talk to someone. That's my self-care. I have boundaries. What you're saying, my wife is very boundary. You know, you can't say yes to everyone. I have good self-care practices. You know, the mornings is my time to myself. I go for walks, go to the gym, look after my own well-being, and then get home, make breakfast for the kids, and then just work.
That's so good. What are you listening to at the moment if you've got headphones on?
Either listening to a podcast or music. Okay. Always trying to find what the latest hip-hop music is out. So currently I'm listening to Wale, his new album.
Has he just come out with one?
Yeah, he just came out with one a week ago. So
it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute. So it's classical Wale. So it sounds like his old stuff. Always listen to music. Yeah.
And podcasts, what is a Matt Brown podcast list look like? Because I'd imagine it's very eclectic, but at the same time very...
Just to try and find my heroes, like, you know, if Gabo Mataio is on someone's podcast, Mataio Brown was on a recent one, Diary of a CEO. Yeah. I just find the people that I look up to or authors and then search, you know. Because to me, when you're listening to a podcast, I always view it as I'm hanging out with them, you know. Gotcha. So you're listening to the person's views and beliefs. Yeah.
I've often told people, when people say, who are your mentors, Ray? Would love to meet them. And I start name dropping these people. like John C. Maxwell, like Craig Rochelle, like all these spiritual leaders, and like, oh wow, like, do you meet up with them? It's like, yeah,
Well, that's it,
once every fortnight I catch up with them. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to surround yourself or scaffold with the right people. Like, I think it's super important for me. The way I am is purely, or a big part of it is because I've put the right people around me and just chosen the right people around me. For you, how do you go about choosing the right people? Because again, this is the process of your body of work, like making sure you have the right people around. Do you have a litmus test for like the people you have around you and knowing, hey, they're good, they're no good?
Man, I mean, it's a hard one for me because I'm an introvert, so I like my own space.
He'll repeat that. He really is an introvert.
I like my own space, and I'm close to my family. Like, you know, and like families, some of us disagree. You know, we agree to disagree. We have different views on life. I have family members who are on the left. I have family members on the right who love Trump. Like all these things, I'm like, you know, and for me, I suppose I bring my barber hat. You know, I get different walks of life who sit in my chair, different men who have different beliefs. I take what aligns with me and my morals, you know, and I leave, you know, well, that's a bit far, you know, extreme, you know. And so I kind of view that as well with my group of friends. Not that I condone some of what my friends believe in their morals, but I like to challenge that, you know. And I think when you're trying to create a healthier society, it's important to have people who have different beliefs than you, because it challenges your beliefs. If anything, it should strengthen your beliefs if they, you know, stay in those hard conversations. And so as a barber, I have a whole range of different friends. But in my personal life, like people that I actually want to hang out with, obviously people that align with my values and morals. People who don't objectify women, you know, who don't see women as just another object, you know. I hang out with guys who respect women, who love their children, you know. So all those kind of values.
I think that's super important, because I think often when we talk about success, whatever that looks like, yesterday I was at a school and I was speaking to kids about know who's in your circle. You have permission to allow people into your circle or don't allow into your circle. And the biggest thing I said to them was like, your circle will determine your journey. Like really having the right people around you. Some people, and I use this thing, I saw it on TikTok. It's probably the one useful thing I found on TikTok. It was like an equation, like a math equation. And I said, there's different types of people that come into your life and that you need to be mindful of. The first one is you need to be mindful of people who subtract from your life, who take. It's all transactional. They take things from you, take your time, take your resources, take your energy. They don't want anything else but just to take from you. The other one is division, who come and like trying between you and something. And I just create chaos and disorder, or try to pull you in different directions, or try and, you know, associate you with this and that. I said, be mindful of that. And then also be mindful of those who are there to multiply your impact or multiply your life, and who want the best for you. And then the last one is someone who adds value to your life. And I think whenever I speak about that with the kids, they're like, oh yeah. I said, now look at the person who divides, and you know, I said, don't look at the person next to you. But I think it's an important lesson.
It's great advice. Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think the more we can filter out the people who don't serve us, I think you're more likely set up yourself for successful relationships and successful direction where you want to go. I know for you, you got little ones or not so little one. Like, how do you go about coaching your kids in terms of the kind of friends that they had to try and look for and try and have in their world?
I try and I'm massive on teaching my kids self-awareness, because the world is full of many different colors. You got people who have different beliefs, you know, have been raised different to you, and I see that with my kids. My kids come home and use language that we don't even use at home, you know. So obviously they're being influenced from, you know, their peer groups, and so I just try and teach my kids to have self-awareness, know what your values are, because there will come a time when people come into your life who have completely opposite values. Stand on your values, you know, 10 toes down, stand on your values, stick to your guns. And I think you won't, you know, move from that. And people will test it. People will trial you and go at you, challenge your values and morals. Just stand on your values and morals, you know. Because I think it's good for people to have, you know, to challenge you.
Yeah.
Because your values should stand the test of time.
Yeah, 100%. Traveling with your family, like you said, has always been a cool thing. What has that taught your kids in terms of like life and perspective? And
it's
value?
taught them their privilege. They are freaking privileged. And not privileged where they get to travel, but when you're seeing the world, you know, how so many different people are struggling around the world, you recognize, man, growing up in New Zealand, yes, we've got our own battles that we're, you know, struggling at home, you know, tangata whenua. My wife is Māori. They're still fighting for a lot of their rights with the Treaty of Waitangi. But when you travel the world, you recognize that a lot of people around the world have it so hard, have it really, really hard, you know? And so my kids, I'm always, teaching them of their privilege, recognizing their privilege, and what they do with that is super important. But it also makes them dream, you know, seeing the world, just different people, different cultures, it makes them dream. Yeah. So it opens a whole new different world. Yeah. You know, for me growing up in Christchurch, it was hip hop was the window. Yeah. You know, like most of us kids who grew up in Christchurch, when you're surrounded by people who don't look like you, talk like you, you often see yourself in the All Blacks, you know. And so it was John Alomu, it was Michael Jones, you know, those are our dream catchers. Those are the icons. Guys, the icons that we wanted to be like. Yeah. But for someone like me, I didn't excel in sports, you know, because I like my KFC too much. And so it was hip hop, you know. That was a different window to life for me. And so for my kids, traveling for them is a whole different window, you know. It's a privilege.
That's crazy. How do you, because you speak, both you and Sarah speak in schools and in organizations with young people a lot of the time. Is it something that how do you teach someone to dream? And how do you give them confidence to go, I'm here, I'm standing before you, but you can also achieve, like, what does that messaging sound like? Because this is the stuff that I love. Like, I stand in front of kids and I'm just trying to inspire them. It's like, does it resonate? What's the messaging? So what does it look like for you when you go into these schools and education systems and you're trying to empower the kids the same way that you empower your own?
Man, I always ask kids the question, number one question I always ask children and practitioners is, what's one thing that brings you to life? If you can think of one thing that brings you to life, what is it, you know? For some people, it's going for a walk on the beach or hanging out with their children. Why can't that be enough, you know, to dream of having a healthy home where my children have food on the table, you know? That's... To expect people to dream further than that when they don't even have the basic necessity, I think it's unhelpful, you know. So to even dream, man, my next meal, or to have washing powder for our clothes, you know, that's a massive dream for children. And so what's one thing that brings you to life? Mum and dad not fighting, you know, to live in a home where there's no violence, you know. And that's often an answer I get from a lot of kids. You know, my dream is that mum and dad will stop fighting. Yeah. I'm more helpful around the house. I'm like, here I am thinking the dream is just to travel, you know, like, but our kids can't even dream past basic necessities. And so that's the one question I always ask. Yeah.
If I was to flip it and ask you, like, what's the thing that brings you joy and brings life to you right now?
Right now is the same thing. My children waking up and not having to worry about their next meal, you know, because I even said it to my kids the other night, like, man, I used to wake up and, what are we having for dinner tonight, Mum? Those were my questions, you know, where my children are like, oh, Dad, what are we doing tonight? You know, it's like,
bruschetta. It's like, smashed avocado.
You know, it's just basic things, like even having rice and butter was a privilege for us, you know. Yeah. And I mean, saveloy soup, like we were poor, like, you know, Mum was lining up at the food banks. We didn't know our next meal, you know. And so now my kids we were in Wales, and my kids felt like Mexican, and we found this burrito place. And my 7-year-old daughter, the waiter comes over to my daughter and goes, oh, what can I get you guys? And my 7-year-old daughter goes, do you guys have ceviche? And the waiter's like, ceviche? It's like, what's ceviche? And we're like, we're at a Mexican restaurant and you don't know what ceviche is. But that's my 7-year-old daughter, you know, she's traveled the world. She knows what ceviche is, which is raw fish, you know. it's just my kids live a completely different life, and so for me, it's just trying to teach them of their privilege.
Yeah, and they bring you the most joy.
They bring me the most joy.
Yeah.
My children bring me the most joy. Like,
Yeah,
because I'm an introvert, all I need is my children and my wife.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I love my work. I love traveling and I love talking to kids, to students, to practitioners.
Yeah.
But nothing brings me more joy than doing that alongside my children.
It's a bucket filler, eh?
And it grounds me,
Yeah.
you know, because I think this is why I work so hard, to give you guys the life. Not so much material things in the traveling, but you guys have peace.
Yeah.
You guys have a mum and dad who love each other.
Yeah.
You have a mum and dad who are not fighting, and, you know, the police are at our house every second day.
Yeah, that's crazy. One of the things that I love about you, Sarah, and your parenting and your relationship journey is that you begin to create resources and things for kids and for families. One of them, obviously, the most famous book, I reckon, She Is Not Your Rehab, that triggered a whole wave of social impact. That book going into prisons and all over New Zealand. And that's been used as a resource for many other organizations as sort of like a blueprint of how to share your story. But most recently, and I want you to share about the most recent book, and we'll probably touch on this one soon. But yeah, tell us about that in terms of, was it ever in the pipeline to write kids' books and share your story through a kids' book?
No, it was never in our pipeline to write a story for children, for Te Maiti. But everywhere we went, teachers, practitioners always asked us, have you guys got anything for kids? Are you guys doing anything for kids? And I just thought, obviously my heart's been always working with men. Started a barbershop, predominantly of my clients were men. Yeah. Started group therapy sessions for men. You know, I always worked with men because I was always the kid. The reason why we got our She Is Not Your Rehab into prisons for free, where we raised money for it, was because I was the kid at home. Every time dad did a long leg in prison for beating up mum or doing something silly, I was always praying and wishing that someone would say something to my dad while he was sober in prison. Yeah. Unfortunately, that day never came, you know. And so the reason why we got the book was I want this, while men are sober and incarcerated, they have a tool to help them heal. So when they come out of prison, they're better for their children. Yeah. That was a massive success. And so our gaze then turned towards children, because my wife said to me while we're sitting on the couch, she said, you know, what's something that you wish someone said to you while you're going through women's refuge? You know, while you guys were uplifted and taken to women's refuge, what's something that you wish someone said to you? And I said, I wish an adult said to me that this was never ours to carry, because we thought it was our job to keep dad happy. It was our job to make sure that the house was clean, everything was done well, so when dad got home from work, he wouldn't abuse mum. Yeah. You know, we thought it was our job to carry that pain and that mum. And so that's when the title of the book came, This Is Not Yours to Carry. And it was our message to all our children that whatever happens to you in your childhood or whatever you're going through, your parents' trauma and their pain and all their junk is not yours to carry, you know. Let go of that stuff. And so that's where the book came in. So the book is targeted at children who grow up in homes of ACEs. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. There's a whole range of them, but the top 10 ACEs are, I don't know the top 10 on my head, but domestic violence is one of them. Yep. Sexual abuse, a parent or caregiver who's incarcerated. The top 10 ACEs, those are what our children's book series are targeted on. Yeah. And so the first one is targeted for those who are living in domestic violence. Yeah. And so my goal is, we just released it this year, but our goal is for the first year to distribute 125,000 free to kids all around the world. Yeah. Who are living in women's refuge or in care. Yeah. So we want the book for free. And the reason why we want it for free is because if trauma is free, why can't healing be free, you know? And so it's just removing those barriers, making tools of healing accessible for our people, for those who are vulnerable, which are our children. Yeah. What has surprised you about the book? Like, what? We wrote it for children, but the adults who are reading it to their children, it's been healing them. Because adults are realizing, I've been carrying so much of stuff from my childhood that it was never mine to carry. Yeah. So that's been surprising. Because the intention was to write it for children, but it's also healing adults as they're reading it to their children, you know. So as they're buying the book, they're like, can you address it to me, please? Like, I thought it was supposed to be for your children. But it's beautiful. I mean, we have a friend who's a therapist. She took the book into women's prison, and she did a session with the woman there, an hour session. She said it took me an hour to get through the book, and we read it really slowly, and all the women in the session were in tears because they recognized they had been carrying so much stuff from their childhood that was never theirs to carry. So yeah, it's for children, but it's also for adults, because all of us carry the little version of us inside of us.
Yeah. A part of that, like, and I'm making an intentional segue, like when we talk about that, there's a little person inside of us. Like one of the social campaigns, advocacy and resources that you and Sarah sort of have, and the crew have sort of put together is Inner Boy. And that's something that I'm proud of to be a part of as an ambassador, and something that I love.
Thank you.
And I think that is also, was that something that came out of a plan, or was it a surprise to go, hey, I think we have something here? Because again, that's the app, there's the book. Like how is that impact of Inner Boy happening now?
Oh, the impact for Inner Boy has been overwhelmingly humbling, to say the least. That came about was because during COVID, in New Zealand, we went into a lockdown. Our first lockdown was 6 weeks. I jumped on national news at 6 o'clock, and I did an interview with our Women's Refuge CEO, and I said, on national news, if there's any man out there struggling with violence or anger or his mental health, please reach out to me. I promise I'll respond. Next minute, thousands and thousands of men started writing to us on social media.
Crazy.
My wife's like, babe, this is not sustainable. Because I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, messaging, FaceTiming, video calling people all around the country. And what really broke my heart was receiving messages from our young people.
Yep.
A 12-year-old boy who I'll never forget, who said, "Man, I seen your news last night. You said that you help men who struggle with anger. Can you please help me help my dad who's beating up my mum, my little brother, beating up my little brother?" I said, yeah, of course. Jumped online, tried to find this young kid help. Nothing available. All the anger management courses cost money, were imported from somewhere, decorated with a koru pattern, Māori pattern. It wasn't by us, for us.
Yeah.
And so we decided to create an app, an online course to help men heal, regulate their emotion, nervous system, all those things. So it's pretty much the digitized version of our book turned into an app.
Yeah.
Again, we wanted it to be free. And so we've made it free in New Zealand and Australia now. And it's been amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's the work that I've been doing with men, helping them heal. Again, because you want to take responsibility. You can't control anyone else. When you're working in the space of family violence prevention, a lot of people like to point the fingers. Well, she triggered me. It's her reason why I'm angry. It's her reason why I beat up, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, you can only take a responsibility for your own actions.
Yeah.
And that's what Inner Boy is you taking responsibility of your own healing journey. Yes, your childhood trauma wasn't your fault, but your healing is absolutely your responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. How powerful is that? One of the resources that I have in front of me is this. You want to speak into that? You can show it to the camera for those.
This is our new kaupapa, it's all part of the movement of creating a healthier society, healing society, called Father, Son, and the Holy Plate.
Yeah.
So it's just, when I was traveling, I was doing all these food reviews. I was visiting different restaurants, like in the UK, I was eating at Jamaican restaurants, food that we don't really get in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And it just had over all my stories had an engagement of 20,000 people viewing my stories. I'm like, man, how come you guys are not viewing my mental health stuff as much as my food? Yeah, the food stuff that people and men were writing, bro, I want to try that food. I'm like, you guys are annoying. Everyone engages in food, but not in mental well-being. Yeah. And so I said to my wife, why don't we combine the two? Because when I was cutting hair, one of the questions men always asked me was, I don't know how to talk to my son. I go fishing with him, I play PlayStation with him, but I just don't know how to engage and have meaningful conversations. And so I thought, well, why don't we combine all the things that I love, mental health, well-being, food, and having conversations with my son. And so me and my son have just released a YouTube series called Father, Son, and the Holy Plate. Yeah. So it's a play on the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But it's the Holy Plate because food, obviously, in our culture, brings people together. Ko nga'i, every Sunday you bring your best food and it brings the family together. And so why not share a plate of food, promote someone's business who's in the food industry, and have meaningful conversations with your son. Yeah. And so that's where this card game was. And so these are just prompts for dads to do with their children.
Like conversation starters?
Conversation starters. And it's deep, things that you probably think that you would never talk about with your children. And so we trialed this on my father-in-law, my wife's dad,
Yeah.
with my son, his grandson.
Yeah.
And he said it's so powerful, like, you know, it was a bit teary for him, like just having these conversations. Like, again, these are conversations that I wish I had with my father.
What's an example of a question? Give me an example of a conversation.
Oh, it could be simple. With there's a simple question there, which is, you know, surface level. You know, who was your superhero? You know, something like that.
Yeah.
And then deep things. You know, name me. How did you fall in love with mum, or when did you feel in love? When what's one moment in life you fell in love or you felt heartbroken? You know, so you can go, there's some deep questions and there's some surface
level, and they can just go choose whatever in between. I love this. Again, it's another means to bring help in the hands of people without even them knowing, because it's non-invasive. Like sometimes when you're like, here's not your rehab. Oh, I don't know if I want to read this, and people, and my experience has been when I recommend that book, people up and and ahs, like, how's it going? Oh, I can't get past the intro. And it's like, it's almost like they're too afraid to see what that would look like or the impact. But again, all roads lead to, like, you know, helping out that inner boy or that inner daughter. But this is another means to sort of like, it's another access point.
Yeah. And I always encourage people, like, do it around dinner table. Yeah. If you're sitting there in the lounge or on the falla on the ground or at the table, just put those question cards in the middle and one person asks. Yeah, you know, share a prompt and then everyone answer. Yeah, while you're eating your kai, you know. Yeah,
so we will definitely get into this because we do that a lot in our home, and the girls. So 3 daughters, they all say hello. They say hi to Matt. So does Shani. She's like, I wish I could take a day off work so I could come and hang out with you guys. But the thing that really hits me is always just sitting around a table and having a conversation, and it wasn't until recently where our girls would come back and we'll just talk about dinner and food and friends, and they're like, yeah, that family, when they told their friends that we sit around a table and eat and talk, there's no devices. Our kids don't have devices anyway. It's more so they use our devices, but they were shocked. They were like, oh, people, our friends are surprised that we sit around a table, or they just don't do it. Like, wow. And I think this, like, stuff like this really is bringing the focus back on family and FaceTime.
100%. And I think because, you know, we live in a day and age where both mum and dad, both parents have to work to pay the bills, right? And so often we don't have the time to have conversations. So I'm very intentional. Every time we have dinner, no devices, no TV on, we're sitting and having conversations. And so my kids love it. They, you know, let's ask a question, you know. We do something in our family called pit, peak, and something you're grateful for. Okay. So the worst part of your day, the best part of your day, and something you're grateful for. So we have that, you know, gratitude attitude in our household. Yeah. And then the kids will ask, you know, pick a card out and we answer one of the questions.
You know, one of the things you just reminded me, and I love that, because we practice it a lot at home. But something that I just listened to recently, I think it was Angela Duckworth and Mel Robbins in a podcast. I don't know if you've heard that one yet, but that one was cool about or maybe it was Adam Grant. I don't know who it was, but it was like, we're so used to gratitude, which is cool, receiving, but their studies show that you can also speak about contributions, or I've just recently coined it just because I can, because in teaching, like attitude, ADD, attitude, meaning what value did I add today to someone's life? So gratitude is like, what did I receive? What was done for me, to me, like things that you appreciate, whether it be sunset, whether it be friends. But it's actually flipping it and going, hey, put it in perspective. How did you help someone today? How did I add value to someone's house? So that's been a really cool revelation for us and our family, because it's like, it makes our kids think, oh, it's just not about receiving. Because they say, oh, receive, I got this, I got that. But it's like, how did you be a good person today? And the questions go from, have now gone, who did you make laugh today? Who did you make smile? Who did you help out in class today? And I think I love that. Super important. It's like receiving, but also value adding.
Yeah, my father-in-law, my children's granddad, they call him Papa Paul. He's taught my kids that, you know, for every week, at least use 1 hour of your week to add value to someone's life, to serve someone outside of you, you know. Yeah. And my kids love it. Yeah. You know, so they go to the neighbors, do you need your lawns mowed? You know, like, good, you know. But again, it's that fa'alalo, it's you know, bringing our culture into our livelihood.
I love it. I love it. One of the questions that we've often asked our guests on the podcast, I've framed it like the miracle question. Peter likes to call it the magic wand. But the miracle question is this: say you go to sleep tonight and a miracle has happened, meaning the thing that really burdens you or just wanting to happen, like it's like your mission or something that you want to achieve in the world or want to see a difference in the world. That miracle has happened overnight. You wake up. You don't know the miracle has happened, but how will you know that the miracle has happened? Like, what changes would you notice about the thing that was on your heart to want to see that change? So go to sleep at night. The miracle happens just like that. Wake up. What is something that you will notice about the way people are and how they respond?
What I would hope is people are more self-aware. I just think the society on a whole, people are just lacking self-awareness. People would be more seeking to understand rather than be understood. You know, I think there's a lot of self-centeredness where it's like what we were saying before, what do I get out of this? You know, what about me? Where I think if you seek to understand rather than to be understood, the society would be such a better place. You know, you wouldn't have wars. You would have people who would be listening. You know, if we just set all our politicians down and we talked about our pain and trauma or how you suffered from shame, you know, we're more alike than we are different. You know, you would be less, you know, ostracizing someone or dehumanizing someone. You would recognize, man, we're actually all the same. Why, you know, we get stuck in the left and right. It's like we actually all bleed and poo the same, you know. Seeking to understand. People are more self-aware of themselves and their triggers and what's happening in their body, instead of projecting that, wanting someone else to pay the price.
When you're speaking to crowds or you've been invited into organizations, I know you did some amazing work overseas, and you're speaking about this self-awareness piece, like what's generally the response? Is it like, oh, that's basic? Like I don't know. I'm always interested because it's like you can only speak to people until they're blue in the face, but it's like, when does the penny drop for them? Like, and how do you go about going, hey, I need to be consistent in this messaging. I need to, how do you not teach them self-awareness? But
I think I just, I bring real stories from my community and fuse it into talking about self-awareness. You know, I like currently right now back in New Zealand, our government believes, you know, when children do the crime, they need to do the time, you know, so we lock them in prison, throw them in boot camps, all these things. But when you actually understand how trauma affects the body and the environments that these kids are growing up in, you know, they're growing up in homes where food is basic necessities like food, breakfast is not available. And so our kids are in survival mode, you know, so they're going to school. We're expecting them to listen and know their times tables. How can they even think or use their brains when their tummy is, you know, running on E? All these basic necessities that we take for granted. And so when I bring real stories of kids from my neighborhood, kids who grew up in foster care, who were sexually abused from multiple people, and then we're expecting that these kids are going to be angels, like, you know, they're on survival. So going to the dairy, going to the shop and stealing food just so they can survive is, you know, a basic necessity that so many of us take for granted. And so when I teach self-awareness, like what you're seeing is the manifestation of what pain, neglection, rejection looks like. If we actually connected with these children, gave them food, just basic necessity, a loving home, connected, made them feel seen and acknowledged, you wouldn't have the crime. But because we can't even give them the basic stuff, we get the crime, you know. And so when I'm working with practitioners, social workers, teaching them self-awareness, like look at the kids in the eyes. You know, I've had women and men who have been social workers for 30 years come up to me in tears saying, I've never looked at the kids that I work with in the eyes, you know, because all they read is a piece of paper that says that they've, you know,
they got, this is their rap sheet, misbehaved, you know, kicked out of this home.
But something so simple like looking at a child in the eyes and then seeing that, you know, their story, just things like that. And so when I bring stories of, you know, the men that I've worked with to the forefront, it does have impact, you know. I get people coming up to me and crying, you know. I was in a school in Melbourne 2 weeks ago, and I shared, and the principal on the microphone said, "Oh, Matt's going to stay around if anyone wants to ask him questions." I'm like, "Oh no."
You knew exactly.
I knew exactly what was happening. What was happening was a whole line of kids lined up, and these kids were coming to me, and just my whole shirt was wet on my right shoulder. My whole shirt was wet of tears. Kids disclosing, horrific things. The school psychologist was standing next to me, and after the 2 hours that went, the kids went right through their lunch break, just coming and talking to me. The psychologist goes to me, "I've been at the school for 8 years. Not one of these children have come to my office and disclosed this." He's like, "What am I doing wrong?" And I said, "Brother, you need to go where the kids are. You need to share yourself." Like, I get the protocols of keeping yourself safe as a practitioner, but I'm like, this shit's not working. Like, and people ask me, like, "Why are you so? How are you doing?" It's like, because I'm not following your thing. Like, how you work with our people, or people who come from traumatized homes, that you have to go to them. Like, again, this came from talking to men. Like, how come you don't want to go see a therapist? A lot of the men, I don't want to go sit and talk to someone who doesn't look like me, talk like me, sitting in an office, them wearing a suit. They don't have my lived experience. So again, we go to where the men are. I go into construction sites and work with men in the construction sites. I go into the gang pads and work with gangsters. Like, you go to where the men are.
If there was, it's crazy. It's like, it's simple. Like, I think for me, like, you and I, we overcome.
Over professionalized. Like, for you, and I always give honor and credit to you. You were one of the few men. Like, obviously, I'm a barber. I became the safe zone for men who would come and talk to me. Where you were one of the few men that became my safe place. You were coming into my shed, and I was talking to you. I was like sharing my thoughts with you, and then you were praying for me. Like, you went to where the men are. You came to my shed. You weren't waiting for me to come to your church. You came to where we were. And that's the difference. People over professionalize things.
100%. And sometimes I think I'm reluctant to bring people to somewhere, like, "Hey, come to this place." And it's probably a bit of my trauma as well. Like, come to the church and we will. It's like, no, I'm not about that. From what I know and believe and what I read, it's like, man, the person that I serve and follow, Jesus, goes into the marketplace, goes into the margins, connects with real people. So I think that it's so simple, but we overcomplicate it.
And that's what church is. I mean, I've always had the understanding of church is where two or more are gathered. That's where I will be. When two or more. So to me, it could be my barber chair, it could be the cafe. That's church. It's getting outside of your four walls and going and loving and showing compassion to the most vulnerable in our society.
I love that. There's a question that I'm listening to you, and I can hear Peter's question come into my ear, and it's called the magic wand question. And this is where Peter comes with an insight of, like, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it over like a structural change in the work that you do, or things that it's like you could see it needs to change, like in the work of advocacy or violence-free homes, and you could wave it out, like, what would that change be you'd like to see?
Oh my gosh. I would want to see us learn how to work better with men. I've been working in the family violence prevention sector for close to 20 years now, and there's a lot of and we need help for the victims, mainly women and children. We have awesome wraparound services for our wahine, our teine, all around the world, not just New Zealand, Australia, but all around the world. But the people who are perpetrating the violence the most are men. I would like to see more work around how to work with men better. Because the thing is, we lock them in prisons, we shut them out, we do all these things. It doesn't do anything. You throw men in prisons who have perpetrated violence, they're now surrounded by a whole bunch of other men who
unregulated.
So again, that whole thing, you surround yourself, you show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you'll be in the next couple of years. You're in prison with the most traumatized of society. You're going to come out of that space more traumatized, having better tools of how to hide, all these things, do crime. It doesn't work. That system does not work. The only thing it's working for is for people who have bigger pockets, who are wealthy. The prison system works for those people. It's not working for our most vulnerable. So I think I would love to see, if I had a magic wand, better approaches to working with those who have perpetrated violence. Because the truth is, men who have perpetrated violence are still someone's hero. a little child, a little girl still looks up to their dad. So if we don't work with them better, that pain will be transmitted onto our most vulnerable, and the cycle will just carry on.
What a wand.
Yeah, but that's
Here it is.
I just want more healed families,
Yeah.
The cycle to break.
Yeah.
Break the cycle.
Yeah, we often and I love what you say a lot, about being a cycle breaker. I think that's sometimes that's too much to comprehend for someone to be a cycle breaker because they're in the cycle. Like, what would you say? Like, what would be some starting tips for someone who's like, and you probably have these conversations. I don't know how to start. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't like. How do you begin to coach someone? And what would you recommend? Would be something like, how do you break a cycle?
Just do the next right thing. And that's the thing when sometimes I'm working with kids who come from homes of trauma and violence, asking a child to dream that you want to be the next, Payne Haas, like all these real life superheroes is so much, I don't even know what my next meal is. I don't even know if mum and dad are going to be home tonight. Am I looking after the kids? Am I organizing dinner tonight because mum and dad are out busy working or mum and dad are at church? All these things.
Yeah.
And so for me, to break the cycle, just do the next best thing.
Yeah.
What's the next best thing is
whatever it is.
Doing whatever that looks like, and because sometimes we can overwhelm people by asking them to dream big. It's like, mate, I don't even know what my next meal is.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I have a question that there's two that I want to ask. One of them being, what is something that no one has asked you on a podcast or an interview? That
I don't know.
Because you're an open book. It's just
But that's for me. I mean,
what is something interesting that no one has ever asked you about?
Try me. I don't know. What's something no one's ever asked me about? I wouldn't know. I've been asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
What's something you reckon?
What's the worst place you've been, like, when it comes to travel?
Ooh.
Oh, actually, no. I don't want to say worst. Because next minute you're banned from those places.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
What's a memorable place you've traveled to that has left you gobsmacked?
Yes, that's a good question. No one's asked me that. I would say two places come to mind: India and Brazil. India because, like, we were meeting beautiful people on the street. With what they have, they share, and I get that in our culture too. Samoans, we don't have much, but what we have, we'll give off our back.
Wow.
Coming, and I remember my mum used to always take in homeless people or women who were working the streets. My mum would bring them in, like, it's too cold and they got nowhere to sleep, and obviously they're working on the streets selling themselves, and so my mum would bring these random women to our house and feed them and give them a bed. I found that in India too. There was the poverty line and the wealthy line. You could see the massive disproportion. For the people who didn't have much, they were inviting me and my family to their homes, and we were sitting in their bedroom while they made us me'ai, made us some food. Like, it was just beautiful. And then you'll see these massive, glorious, beautiful homes. And the rich are definitely, you see the rich over there, but then you're walking in the markets and you're seeing children in rubbish bins, and that shook my children to the core. They like, how can we help them, Dad? But it's like these, you see hundreds. Poverty, children walking around naked, like, that left a massive imprint in my heart. Like, how grateful I am. We have won the lottery ticket to be born on this side of the world. We have won the lottery ticket. That's not to, take away anything of our people's struggle, but that just puts things into perspective. Brazil, my wife took us into this tour where we traveled in the favelas.
Yeah.
So, poverty.
Yeah.
But the people there were beautiful. Brazilians were beautiful. And I'm like saying to my wife, are you sure this is safe for us to, travel? And my wife said, well, this tour that my wife had booked for us, all the profit and the money went back into the community.
Yeah.
So we took in a whole suitcase of books and, things for children. We visited a school and, we helped there. But a week after that, we left that favela. About 13 people got shot you know, it was a shootout between the police and the gangs there. And I looked at my wife, I was like, you took us into this neighborhood with me and my children. She's like, oh, sorry. But again, it's going into these communities, low socioeconomic communities where people don't have much, but they're willing to give and share with you. Yeah. And that, to me,
the best place.
It just brings me back home, you know. That's how I grew up.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's so cool. I love that. Well, I got a final question, and the question is this, and it's something that we try and frame it this way, like, and I've just changed the way I'm going to ask it. You know how you were asked in 2020, cut to camera, you know, hey, Matt, if you want to say something, it's 2025, obviously. This is coming to the end of the year, right? You get an opportunity to be on national TV, and they're like, hey, we're just going to cut to Matt Brown now. So you know that millions of people are watching in Australia and New Zealand, and they go, you got 3 minutes. 3 minutes to say whatever you want. Like, what is something in a way that you can, it's simple, it's clear, and it kind of captures what you wish, because again, we've said so much, and people know, like I do, I know, I read your stuff, I follow, but they go, all right, ready, Matt? In 3, 2, 1.
If I could use colourful language, and I'm going to use colourful language, I would say, the hate you give little infants fucks everybody. The hate we give little infants, our most vulnerable, our children, fucks everybody. That's an acronym that I hold dear to my heart, Thug Life, which Tupac, one of my favourite rappers, had on his stomach. The hate you give little infants fucks everybody. Because these children that we don't care about, we think don't need water, simple things like water or a household or a, you know, violent-free home. These children become adults who then we have to deal with, who then I'm working with, trying to help heal, because these men have children. So if we look after our children, surround them with love, aroha, compassion, empathy, all those things, my hope is that these children become loving men who are loving fathers, loving husbands, because the hate we give little infants will affect all of us. Yeah. So love on our children. The children, the most important thing in this world are our children.
And cut. Oh man, my heart's full. Not because we've shared Talanoa in space, but because you're here. Like,
thank you for having me, bro.
Oh, man,
always good to be in your presence.
Yeah, I know. Every time we chat, as if like we're back in that barbershop again. But thank you for joining us on the podcast again. People can find you on social media, on Instagram. You do stuff on LinkedIn. You got some great resources out. And again, I have to name drop, because in case this is someone's first time listening to our podcast, you have the book, She Is Not Your Rehab. There's an app in a boy that helps men deal with their trauma. You have a new book, a children's book, which is called
This Is Not Yours to Carry.
This Is Not Yours to Carry. You have a new conversation card starter coming out soon, Father, Son, and the Holy Play. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of these and put it in churches. Is there anything else that people need to know where they can access you? Because again, you're constantly on the go, not for the sake of being busy, but the work that you do, like, where else can people...
I mean, it sucks. Unfortunately, domestic violence, family violence, sexual abuse runs rampant in all communities. Yeah. It doesn't just happen in poor communities, low socioeconomic communities. It happens in wealthy communities, you know? And unfortunately, a lot of people can hide behind their money, hide behind power, but it happens everywhere. And so wherever this work takes me, into all the countries that I've visited about 35 so far, holding space for a lot of our men and children. Yeah. If you want to find our work, just sheisnotyourrehab.com.
Yeah. Seki, that's us. Thank you again for joining us for Foreground Podcast. I hope you liked this episode with my brother, Matt Brown. And again, jump on the socials, share, like, subscribe. I just like saying that, on podcast, share, like, tag, collaborate, whatever it is. But yeah, grateful for you to be here. Join us in the next episode. Thank you.